Hi everyone, Tony Tonkin here from the Child Protection Party. I'm glad that you could be with us again for this live feed on a Thursday night. And as many of you may now be aware, we're now doing these feeds in the evening as opposed to during the day because we believe it's more convenient for people, and we'd like you to demonstrate to us how convenient it is by simply logging on, sharing what you see, and making some comments and helping us to have a discussion about our particular topic for tonight. So tonight we're going to be talking about who's keeping our kids safe, and we'd like you to have a conversation with us about your attitude towards that. So everybody, welcome to CPP TV. As always, we have the wonderful Avery Hilditch with us tonight to discuss this topic and a range of other things that have happened over the last few days. So welcome again, Avery.
Oh, how are you today, Tony?
I'm pretty well, thank you. I've had a really good day.
Good.
Had a couple of DCP meetings, which went okay, which I'll talk about in just a moment. But apart from that, it was good. Had a good day. Because I've got a couple of students working with the foundation now, which tends to make life a little bit more interesting, I think, because the person that I'm particularly working with here has lots of interesting questions to ask me, for which I wonder on occasions whether I have the right answers or not. But we do the best we can.
Yeah.
And yourself?
I've been busy doing some stuff for the Riley Foundation. I've sent off the final documentation for us to get our application for charitable registration. If we get that, then it means that any donations would be tax deductible. It'd also make it a lot easier for the Riley Foundation to seek grants. I've also been today working on a confidentiality agreement and other documents that we need to have for legal reasons in support of the Riley Foundation. It's been a busy afternoon.
So I think now that Avery's brought you up to date with where he's been at, and I've been able to bring you up to date with what's happening to me, we'll get down to the topic, which is how do we know that our kids are safe? And I guess one of the reasons why I wanted to raise this is because the question that often sits around all of us, that most of us who work within this space wonder about, is the degree to which our kids are safe in a whole host of environments. So are they safe at school? I've had a couple of conversations today with people who have been talking about bullying of their children at school and outside of school, but by schoolmates. And it occurred to me that, how is it that our schools are managing workplace, how they're managing school bullying, and at the end of the day, they're doing a crappy job of it, basically. I've got one client I was working with last year, a young girl who was being bullied at school, and then I developed a relationship with the school to have further conversations with them about what was happening. And I received a call from a mother today say that, can I re-engage with her, because the school don't seem to be doing anything about some of the terrible things that are being said to her by classmates, and I can never ever get my head around the fact that an education system which is there ostensibly to support kids not just around their education but hopefully around their well-being, are so inept at helping kids to manage the behaviours that we encounter, or that they encounter from other kids who choose to bully them. And my attitude is, or my belief is, that there needs to be some strict penalties for children who bully, and there needs to be and I'll get this feedback from the rest of you if you wish to comment about this, but there needs to be, I think, some penalties for parents who contribute to the bullying by allowing it to continue. And I often wonder what's happening in the home that causes this bullying to eventuate and flow over into the school. And I'm sure if parents took a greater stand against it, and the most alarming thing to me is that parents feel, and I understand this, they feel hopeless and helpless about how to manage their child and their emotions when it comes to bullying, particularly when they're not supported by the school. So how are we keeping? So the question for me is, how are we keeping our kids safe? And I had another conversation with another client today about the same sort of issue in relation to his daughter and how she was being bullied. And what we decided at the end of the day was that it was better for her to, so she was prepared to apologise for something she had said that she's acknowledged she shouldn't have said, but it doesn't mean that the kids need to behave the way that they do. And if the kids will not accept her apology, then the best solution we came up with, and I think this is the best solution anyway, is for her to simply walk away and cease to have any relationship at all with those who want to continue the bullying. Because at the end of the day, if you do apologise for what you've done that you know was unhelpful or offensive, then walking away from that situation is the best you can do. But in schools, often, obviously, kids are lumped together. You can't keep away from those people that are bullying you. They're in the class, they're in the play areas, they're in the grounds, they're just in your face, and they continue at it. So how do we deal with that problem, and how do we keep kids safe? The other thing too that I've been thinking about, which is a perpetual issue for me, is how do we keep kids safe when they're in care? Because often when they're in care, they're also, and I've come across some of these cases recently, I come across them all the time actually, where kids are abused physically, emotionally and sexually while in care. And another conversation with someone else recently was really about the fact that they're in care with, and the person that they're in care with has all the same issues that the mother had, which was why the kids were taken in the first place. And so who's overseeing? And this applies to everything, I think. Hey, we'd like you to pitch in here in a moment if you don't mind. Yep. But who is overseeing the whole, like at school, who oversees what's happening to kids? So one of the issues for me, of course, is mental well-being. So if kids are being bullied, then clearly that's going to impact their sense of self. If they don't have the skills to be able to manage the bully or someone that they can go to get those skills from, then their mental well-being is going to suffer. And there are many cases where kids eventually suicide because they have been bullied to the extent that it is easier to them to escape the emotional pain by doing away and dispensing with their own lives. And that is, shocking is not the word. It is horrendous to think that that's the point kids get to. And then at the end of the day, who's responsible for all of that? Well, actually, the adults are, because they've been unable to mitigate against the bullying and act appropriately in order to ensure that the bullies are dealt with appropriately and that the victim gets the support that he or she needs. Avery, what do you think of all of that?
Well, a couple of things. Violence, I think, is a learned behaviour. So the kids that are bullying others are quite possibly getting that at home, learning it at home. Another thing is, if I compare when my kids were at school, which is many, many, many years ago, with the kids now, it seems to me, I may be wrong and I hope I am, but it seems to me that there's been a sense of abdication of by parents, not all, but by some parents, that the kids are at school. It's up to the school to sort this issue out. It's nothing to do with me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Handing over responsibility totally to the schools, and
yeah,
it is.
But it's a joint.
It is something I think is learned from learned at home.
Yeah.
And not entirely learned at home, but it's a thing I believe is learned at home, and if we can change that attitude and the abdication of responsibility, if you like, that may go some way towards addressing it.
And I think it's fair to say that it's a joint effort, though, is it not, for all of us to work together? And even, not only at school, but in the child protection space, it's really important that we find a way to be able to work together appropriately with the department, where we can listen to the parents, we can listen to the department's point of view. And I just wanted to say too, on that issue, well, firstly, before I do, Patricia, I'm really glad that you could be with us tonight, and I do understand what's happening for you in relation to your access to your son. And I understand as best as I can. I think every case is different, but the grief that you feel about not having your son in your care, and and my thoughts and all of our thoughts from the Child Protection Party go out to all of you who have got kids in care and every night just wonder what's happening for them, not being able to tuck them in, not being able to kiss them goodnight, not to be able to feed them or share in what is happening in your life and you in theirs. So it's very distressing, Patricia, and I appreciate what it is that you're going through. But I just wanted to say that in relation to kids being cared for, that it is important to acknowledge that those people that do the caring sometimes do it really well. And so rather than being really super negative about the child protection system in particular, I happen to have a meeting today with a DCP office with a mum and a couple of workers. And I just want to acknowledge that the worker, and the kids are in long-term care, but the worker, to her credit, certainly provided the impression, and I have no reason to doubt her, that she actually genuinely cared about these kids. And it was great to see, and that they listened to what the mum had to say, and one of the sons was in the meeting as well, and there was none of the berating, none of the heavy questioning, none of the abusive type behaviour that you often experience from social workers in this environment. It was a respectful and caring environment, and I know that social worker will probably never hear this comment, but but if someone does know who they are, just let them know that we really appreciate it, because where there is, so these are the people. So when you've got people that are interested in the kids, then this is the time in which those kids will be safe. It's when people ignore the rights of kids and the rights of children to be heard and acknowledged, then we question as to whether those kids will be safe. And I think it's up to every one of us to make sure that we're working to ensure that children are safe. There's a number of ways we can do that, everybody. One of the ways is to, if you see someone being harmed, then you do need to report it to the authorities. If you're in doubt as to whether a child is being cared for appropriately, then you need to be able to do something about that by also reporting that to the authorities. So we need to do what we can to make sure that all kids, no matter where they are safe. Avery, did you have something specific that you wanted to talk about?
I do.
Yep.
But firstly, just on what you were just saying about if you see something, say something.
Yep.
One thing that everybody should bear in mind is if you see something happening, do not assume that somebody else is going to report it. If you see it, call the cops or whoever it happens, call the child abuse report line if that's what you feel needs to be done. But don't assume that somebody else is going to do it.
No.
All right. If you see a kid being harmed, if you see an adult being harmed, it doesn't matter. If you see something happening that you believe shouldn't be happening, you report it. Don't assume somebody else will do that.
Spot on.
Right. The thing I wanted to talk about was a few days ago, I think Monday it was, I shared up a story on the website called A Handbook for Paedophiles Goes Online. And this handbook is something that is used by paedophiles to teach them how to groom children, how to behave with children, to make them believe that you actually care for them and stuff like that, and that what you're doing to them is okay and everybody does it and all that sort of crap.
So it was about. So actually, it was about grooming behaviours.
It's
Was it not?
it's all
The
about
only-
how to groom children,
yeah.
and then it also goes into details of the sorts of things that you can physically do with the children once you've got them groomed. There's some horrendous things that are being advocated by the authors of this book. I would like to see those people in jail, spending the rest of their pathetic, miserable lives
I think
in
I think we
jail.
need. Can we just clarify a couple of things here, though, Avery?
Yeah,
Firstly, we haven't published a book on how to groom kids
absolutely not.
because I think when you read that title, that's kind of like the first thing that races through my mind, and I'm just a bit fearful that that may have been some of the thing that raced through some other people's minds without looking
Yeah.
at without actually looking at the website that we have
Yeah.
that explains that this is an article about that book.
Yeah, it
Is it
is
not?
not
It's
something
not-
that we published.
No, and it's not the book.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and somebody, sorry, it's not a book that we published. It's something that's been published by some paedophile somewhere on the dark web. It's being shared around paedophiles all around the world. It is a disgusting thing for them to be doing, and they're glorifying it.
But the article is talking about the fact that this is happening.
Yes,
Is it
yeah,
not? So
it
it
is.
isn't about us publishing a book on pedophilia, because that is an horrific assumption
yes,
to make.
Yeah.
It's
Now,
about warning.
the thing
It's
that-
about warning people that this stuff is happening out there.
Yeah, this
and that
is
we
real.
need to be mindful that that it is real, and that there are people out there that are actively seeking to groom kids for their own selfish sexual purposes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
The sort of thing it talks about is it gives advice to paedophiles on how to touch children. It tells them to target a single parent. It tells them that children are sexual creatures. It tells them how to keep it secret. They're highly organized, and the article itself that I've published is one that's talking about what the paedophiles are saying they can do. It's nothing to do with us. We're completely opposed to it.
But I
We
think
got a whole bunch. Go on.
But do you think, Avery, it's important for us to, I guess, well, firstly, do we need to out these people if we know who they are? Number one,
If
'Cause
you know a
that's what people.
paedophile,
That's what people say to us all the time, don't we? If we don't know. Well, I don't ever have anybody come across my desk and say X, Y, Z necessarily, or produce evidence. Look, you can't. Oh God, here we go. You can't say Joe Bloggs is a pedophile. You know, it's just like I can't turn to somebody I don't know and make accusations against them that they're a wife beater or anything. If I have no evidence to suggest that, if I've seen it,
Yeah.
that's a bit different. That's my evidence,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
If I've experienced it, yes. You know, if I find that someone yells and screams at me and I could say that they're angry, yes, I've experienced it. But
Yeah.
we've got to be careful about lumbering names upon people when, when we haven't got
one-
evidence to do so.
yeah, one thing, if you accuse somebody of being a paedophile and they are completely innocent of it, you're setting yourself up for a libel or a slander case. But if you've got some evidence of a person sexually abusing a child, then the Australian Federal Police, you can go and report that crime online to them. Somebody did ask the question. This one of the reasons I wanted to talk about this was because we got a load of comments. 24 comments came in on the website. They were like Siobhan was asking, do they have any authors, doctor references, or actual name of the publication? So if it appears online, we know it's the one. Well, it is called The Paedophile's Handbook. If you see that online, if you see it on Facebook, report it to Facebook and contact the Australian Federal Police and let them know, and they will do their damnedest to get it taken down.
But can I just say, Avery, for God's sake, don't look for it.
Don't look for
Don't
it.
go out
Absolutely.
there and give it value by hunting around and looking for it. Because
Well,
if you even attempted to look for it, you would find that you might have the AFP knocking on your door and walking away with your computer because there'll be assumptions made that you're using this handbook for it.
Absolutely.
I'm just warning people, don't go looking for it. It's information that you don't really need to have. There's enough in the article to let you know exactly what types of things, what horrific, crappy things are in it. So just don't go there.
Yeah, absolutely. The Australian Federal Police do have a unit that specialises in child sexual abuse. They're very adamant about this. They get really pissed off with the media when the media call it child pornography. It is child sexual abuse. You are legitimizing it by calling it child pornography.
They're not the only ones that get pissed off around that, though.
No, I do. I've written to half a dozen different media organisations saying, don't call it child porn, call it child sexual abuse. That is what it is. It's child rape. Where is it? There was a couple of comments that come up. Somebody who just signed themselves B said it would be a good idea for us to set up some sort of scheme, the Child Protection Party, to set up some sort of scheme whereby we go out hunting paedophiles online. And it sounds like a great idea, but the danger is that you'll have the AFP knocking on your door when you do it.
We do know that people have been arrested for doing just that. And there's been the family court is the other issue where kids are returned to a parent who is deemed a pedophile, and that's horrific. And then those parents, I know I went to a meeting a couple of years ago, Natalie and I, where we met some of the grandmothers, and they had these magic bracelets on because they were caught by the police and have been charged for kidnapping kids that were going back. So, there's no other organisation on this planet that's more determined to deal with pedophilia than is CPP. No one. But there are ways of doing it which are about ensuring you're of no use to anyone if you're locked up. No use to your kids, no use in this case to these grandparents who lost their kids. No use. There are other ways. And the only way, I think, Avery, that we need to focus on is that united we will be able to make a stand against all of this. We're not going to do it just sitting at home doing what we do here. We're there, unless we all get together and join in the fight, we will be able to deal with pedophilia as it should be dealt with, and it should be eradicated. And we should make sure that there are laws that appropriately punish people for these horrific acts against children. And I think we need to be a little bit more vocal on the impact that sexual abuse has on kids for the rest of their lives. And we certainly need to make sure that your voice, in fact, is heard in relation to all of that.
Yeah, I would say that there's not one single person that follows us that would in any way condone paedophilia. The best way, if they want their voice heard, join the party.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
www.childprotection.party and click on join us.
And just on that kind of topic, we know this. Whenever I say this, people think we're minimising pedophilia. We're not. Never, ever, ever, ever will we minimise any form of abuse against any child. And there was a political party that focused just on the pedophilia aspect of it because it is the most horrific nature of child abuse, clearly.
Yeah.
Right? So that's where they were focused. But the reality is that the degree of abuse impacted on kids, not the degree of actual long-term abuse on kids spans across a spectrum. Probably the worst form of abuse is sexual abuse. There's no disputing any of that. So I'm not dismissing that by saying this. But overall, the most significant form of abuse is neglect, which is 85% of the cases that come before the child protection system. So when we're looking at kids being removed, we've got to look at the total picture, of which pedophilia is about 2%. But the other stuff, which is physical, emotional, psychological abuse, is a a much larger percentage. It isn't that the other isn't of concern to us. It is. We're terribly concerned about the impact that has on kids. But the overall stuff is also what we need to focus on. Does that make sense?
Yep, it does. It certainly does. I read somewhere, I think it was on the Australian Institute of Family something,
Australian Institute of Family
AIFS.
Studies.
Yeah. Studies, that's it. I read on there, I think it's about 3.5% of all child abuse cases are sexual in nature. A small amount.
Yep.
Every one of them is tragic, and the person responsible should be spending the rest of their miserable lives in jail. I'm all for really harsh sentences for them. I wouldn't go with the death penalty, but as a lot of people would advocate, but I would certainly throw them in jail and throw away the key.
And we know, one of the sad things I think, Avery, is we know that actually working with pedophiles, it's unlikely that they will ever change their thinking around that sort of behaviour. So every time we let somebody out, there's a chance they'll
go right back to
reoffend. So
yeah,
that's a distinct concern too that we need to be mindful of. So how long? But the question really is, like how long can you keep someone in jail for any crime? And like people kill people for Christ's sake, and they're out in 20 years.
If we go by what the United States do, you could keep them in for about 3,800 years.
Yeah, I know, but in the United States, you lock people up for 20 years for carrying around some pot.
Yeah.
So, there are extremes to this.
The US is not a good example, but
no.
I do think that putting somebody, giving them 2 years probation, that happened recently, giving them a 3-year sentence with 2.5 years. What do you call it?
Good behaviour.
So they only do good behaviour. So they only do 6 months or something like that. Is grossly inappropriate. When an adult takes sexual advantage of a child and rapes them, they should be serving I think a really harsh sentence. 20 years, 25 years. Keep them away from our children.
We know that jails are not the best places on earth to rehabilitate people either. Yet, we seem to lock people up thinking they're going to be rehabilitated, but often isn't the case. We need to do this work out in the community. We need to identify the issues that cause people to act as they do, so that they don't act, or their children don't act in ways which are going to be abusive of others. So I just want to...
Can I just say one more thing about paedophilia?
You certainly can.
It's not. I mean, a lot of people say, why do they choose that lifestyle? I don't believe that people do. I don't know whether the cause is genetic, whether it's nurture, something happens in the womb. I've got no idea. But I find it really hard to believe that somebody would choose to be the most reviled member of society that there is. I just cannot see people saying, I think I'll be a paedophile. You know what I mean?
I don't think.
It's the thing I hear all the time.
I don't think people say. I don't think people say. Oh, they have. I know of, or have heard of, I should say. I don't necessarily know of people that say that they have pedophilic thoughts, but they never act on them.
Yeah.
So they have those thoughts, but they have on behaviour. So there are some people, for example, who are gay or lesbian and don't have a partner. They do favour the same-sex relationship, but they don't have a partner, so they don't. I think there are some people. There are some people that are innately violent in terms of the way they think as well, but they don't act on that violence.
To be strictly accurate, pedophilia is thinking it. Doing it is pederasty.
That's right.
So a person can think paedophile things and never act upon it. And if in such a case, if a person was sexually attracted to children and control themselves and never touch them, you can't jail them for a thought crime.
No, that's right. So
But
you've got to be
as soon
careful.
as they act upon it, throw them in jail and throw away the key.
Yes, it's the behaviour that we punish, and
Yeah.
rightfully so, with our behaviour towards them by locking them up, I guess.
Yeah.
So, so I guess that's a bit pedantic, I guess, but we need to be careful that there are lots of people out there who do think some terrible things, fortunately don't act upon them. But we certainly need to be grateful for that, and we need to be able to act on those people who do think things and do act upon those thoughts.
Yeah.
So, okay, was there anything of vital nature? We do have on Saturday.
That's what
our
I was
town
going to
hall.
talk about.
Yep, go for it, mate.
No, you do it.
No, I was just going to say we've got Grandmothers Against Removal talking to us on Sunday, 2:00 South Australian time.
Saturday.
Sorry, Saturday. Oh, Jesus. I'm glad you were there to remind me. Saturday on
2 p.m. Australian Central Standard Time.
I thought it was best for Avery to do it than me, but there you go. That's the time, and there is an advert on our Facebook page. Just have a look at that to confirm what Avery just said, and really looking forward to that conversation with them. As I think we explained on Tuesday, we were going to have them on. We were going to have them last week, but that didn't work out, so we've got them back. And this is a very, very important conversation to have about how grandparents of Indigenous kids feel about the continuing removal of those kids from their communities.
Yep.
So, Avery, is there any parting word that you would like to part with?
Join the party.
Okay.
Help everybody. Help us. Help to change the system.
Oh, and can I just say, with regard to the foundation, that we're working to, the foundation will be taking on a whole different phase, I think, is a fair way to put it. In the next, so the Riley Foundation is developing into something pretty spectacular, and we'd really like you to consider contributing to the foundation, and they can do that by going to the Riley.Foundation and contribute accordingly if you believe that you can, and if you believe in what it is that we're doing over there.
Yeah, Riley is REILY.
Yeah, the Riley.Foundation. Yep.
That's it.
Okay. Thanks, buddy. Thanks for being with me tonight, and we'll look forward to catching up with everybody on Saturday.
Yep.
All right.
See you then.
Okay. Take care, everybody. Bye.